Welcome back to AM Live. The silver wave is sweeping across Asia, the region with the world's fastest growing population.
By 2050, the number of people aged above 60 years in Asia is expected to reach 1.2 billion. That's a 300% increase over the current figure.
Yet this group has been largely neglected by marketing campaigns which tend to focus on younger generation. It doesn't make really much sense when there's all that disposable income out there.
So a word of advice if you are a producer of goods or services, the Silver Group is one group not to ignore. To tell us the best way to attract them this morning, we have Kim Walker, co-author of a new book, something titled Marketing to the Aging Consumer. He joins us in studio. Good morning, Kim. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
So why write this book? I mean, it's about basically really about targeting your marketing towards older folks. Is that right?
That's indeed correct. Well, I guess the trigger for this was the advent of turning 50 myself. And I'd been involved in the advertising industry in Asia Pacific for 30 years, and I was guilty of being obsessed with youth. And then I realised that as I turned 50, a lot of my peers were as well. And, you know, with a lifetime of accumulated earnings and assets and so forth, and yet marketing seems to be ignoring us.
Did you feel that gap as you turned 50? Were you feeling that you were ignored and sidelined? I mean, is that where the gap came in?
Well, remarkably, I did, because I'm a marketing person, but I don't think the average consumer would feel that. I mean, when you look in the mirror on your 50th birthday, you're exactly the same person you saw the day before.
And I guess to a certain extent, it's more obvious when you go out into the shops and all the posters of younger people. Sometimes it just makes you feel older. But there is some sense in that, because by feeling older, you are in a specific group, right? And you're saying that group is being left out in terms of marketing.
That is indeed the case. I mean, advertising is perhaps the most evident form of, if you like to say, exclusion, or it may be even discrimination. But I think the essence of the book is that it's not just about advertising. It's about the entire customer engagement with older people. So it can influence things like, well, for example, the communications, the online experience, the retail experience, the design of the product itself, and the after-sales service. All of those aspects are critical.
Just give us a rough idea. When we say the older customer, what kind of an age demographic are we looking at?
Well, we normally talk about 50 plus. And the reason why we choose 50 is because that's the age at which physical decline seems to become more evident. You know, things start to go wrong. You know, first of all, the eyesight begins, you know, usually around about 40. Hearing starts to deteriorate. I mean, about 50% of all people over 65 in the United States complain about some degree of hearing loss. And those sorts of things just start to become more evident.
Right, as you say, the body starts to break down a little, and then you have all these distractions coming, you know, into your life. So your needs and desires will be different as you hit that group. But give me an idea, how crucial is it for businesses to pay attention to this group? How large is this, you know, aging consumer market really?
Well, as you mentioned before, it is the fastest growing demographic in the world, but particularly among developed societies. In Asia Pacific, we have the oldest, the largest and the fastest aging countries in the world. Of course, we have the oldest in Japan, we have the largest in China, and we have, you know, in fact, an interesting statistic is that by 2030 there will be 350 million people over the age of 50 in China, which will be more than the entire population of the United States of America. And the the fastest aging we have in Singapore. In 2010, we had about 28 to 29% of the population here over 50. And just 6 years from now, 7 years from now, in 2020, we're going to have 39% of the population over the age of 50. So that's a large chunk.
So it is a group that we do want to deal with. I mean, but then again, some companies will say, well, my products are not targeted towards the older consumer. Should I try to make them such that they do appeal to the older consumer, or? You're
always going to have certain products and categories and segments that are going to appeal to specific target groups, and you shouldn't try to force fit those. You're going to have babies, and you're going to have very old people, you're going to have teenagers, and clearly we wouldn't suggest trying to spread yourself too thin. However, the advice that we in Silver Group give to our clients is that wherever possible, you should now look at age-neutral marketing. because the demographic shift is so pronounced and the dollars are there to be gained.
Well, give us an example of something like that. How can you make something that appeals to the entire demographic?
Yeah, what's age neutral?
Okay, well, age neutral, again, if we look at the entire customer journey from communications right through the process, if you think about a product that might avoid using talent, like young pop talent, that immediately says to me as a consumer, you're not talking to me.
Right.
If you have a lot of animation and flash on a website, that's going to make it difficult for me to interact. Retail stores that are dark and very noisy, those sorts of things. And I guess the classic example of a brand that does this extremely well, and which in our age-friendly audit process came up with the top score of 4.4 out of a possible 5, you might be surprised, is Apple.
Okay.
Because if you think of Apple in terms of all of that process I just described, there is nothing that they do that makes me feel like the brand is not for me.
Right.
And yet, remarkably, it remains cool, trendy and hip. So it manages to span the whole divide.
So service is one thing, but the product itself has to work as well. What's the age-friendly product? What are the key characteristics?
iPad. iPad is a classic example. You know, now they say that 43% of Apple's entire user base is over the age of 55. Now, Apple may not want you to hear that, but it's a remarkable statistic, particularly when you compare that to the usage of PCs, which is about half that amount. The Apple iPad recently was used in the presidential election in the United States in retirement homes to allow older people with no experience of computers to register their vote.
Okay.
So it's an age-friendly product. It doesn't require, it doesn't inhibit in any way.
So by referring to the iPad, you're actually stressing on the use, easy use. That's the key word, right?
It is.
Easy use, easy read.
I have another example, which I just bought. It's one of my favourite examples. You know, older people suffer hand strength issues and the grip strength, but this water bottle, which is from Korea, has a design that doesn't require you to pinch your grip. It's a simple open like that. Very, very easy, and it's this is sold on the streets in Korea.
Okay. And it's something we don't even think about it because it seems so common sense. It's something that you don't think about when you twist open a bottle, but I guess
we're so used to it. I mean, we never thought otherwise.
Until your hands are weak, and then you try opening a bottle and you realize that it does. Okay. Well, Kim, thanks for coming in, for sharing those insights with us. Getting some tips there on how businesses can become more age-friendly with our guest, Kim Walker, co-author of a new book, something titled Marketing to the Aging Consumer.
Definitely can tap into that market. Later on, we'll be getting a sneak peek at a production still in the making. After the break, Ip Man, the martial arts movie, is taking a big leap onto the stage. We'll talk to two producers behind the musical version of that hit movie. But we'll be back with more world news updates.
Okay, do stay with us. See you in a bit.